to my non-gender specific people. Welcome back and welcome to the completion of my Inktober 2020. It's been amazing. So we pick up with Rocket, and this one was they ran into another creature on this island and decided to give them a hand fixing their broken rocket. We have the black sands, the crystals, and I think it's just kind of a nice, cute moment. We've got our platypus doing the technical work, and our echidna doing the heavy lifting, and this new character, which is a Chinese water deer, which if you've never seen them before, they're literally like vampire deer. They're really cool, and I totally dig this character. I think she's neat. Next we have Storm. So we have inside a tent, the storm raging outside, our echidna character being treated to a nice cup of tea from our Chinese water deer character. It's so nice and cozy, and it was kind of fun to do the high contrast with all the black and the white lines. I haven't done that very much with this Inktober, so it's always nice to have really high contrast. And again, with the scribblies in the background, I'm having a lot of fun with like weird textures and what have you. I kind of really like how the flaps look. I could have done better than messy cross-hatching in the background. And you know, the raindrops, which is just scribbles. But at least you can tell the characters are behind the foreground, so I can be proud of that, right? Oh no, it's a trap! So it looks like the water deer character put something in the echidna's tea, and we have this very intense passed out echidna with the teacup spilling out, and a very evil looking Chinese water deer. And yeah, another one that came out interesting. I like the fact that it reaches onto the second page. I haven't done too many 2-page ones in the book, so this one really felt like it needed to inch over because I really wanted to be zoomed in. The water deer is awkwardly stretched over his back, and I don't like that hand of hers, but I like the mood. It sets a scene, and that's pretty cool. Nice balance with textures too. Next we have Dizzy. So the platypus has managed to get his friend back into their ship, and they are back in space, and the poor echidna lays on the floor rubbing his head, not feeling alright. The composition of this one is very fun because you do have the big emptiness of space, and I feel like somehow I visually made a very silent moment. Like, to me, you can definitely hear the platypus pushing buttons, but like not saying anything to the echidna and just letting him figure out himself. Also, the platypus's face looks kind of concerned and disappointed. They're such good friends, guys. That's one thing I have learned through this art, is the friendship that these two characters have is a special, special bond. I'm so lame. Skipped a page, but we're into Coral. This has got to be one of my favorite ones from all of them, and literally the description my husband gave for me for this one was just flying through space coral. And I was racking my brain for some idea of what would space coral look like, and like, would it be alien and weird? Then I looked at a bunch of references of coral and just straight up decided to have giant chunks of coral floating in space, not seemingly attached to anything. And while it makes no sense whatsoever, it just looks so cool to me. And like the spaceship in here, you have all the very, very organic shapes, and then you have the inorganic shapes of the spaceship at another angle. I'm so proud of this spaceship, guys. Just the design, it gave me so much trouble, and I wound up really falling in love with it. But yeah, I love it. This is one of my favorites out of the entire book, just because it's so weird and so complicated. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself, or behind on myself. Next one we have sleep, and it's just sleeper pods. We have the echidna already asleep. Platypus is still worried about his friend, and an empty pod. He's about to climb into it, and they're going to be in stasis. These pods look kind of like eggs, and I wasn't quite sure how to draw them. They remind me of the Fallout ones. Probably because my husband's been playing Fallout. But a good contrast with the black and white. Perspective could have been better. And the echidna's face looks really squished and weird. But it's done. We have sleep. After sleep, we move on to Chef. So our little mousy friend from before, our rodent, has come across the robot chef. Because it's a spaceship and they can have robot chefs. It works. I like the perspective on this one. I wish I had done a better pose for the mouse. He's like awkwardly waving at the robot. But I like the robot. It's very Swedish chef-esque. And we have more of those shiny round balls that I for some reason have been drawing a lot in this like story. I like it. It's cool. It's pretty simple, but it's cute. I mean, my husband told me, rodent wakes up, robot chef. So, yeah, it's kind of menacing with his big old knife. After Chef, we have Rip, and we went with R.I.P. as in rest in peace. And the poor little rodent has eaten himself to death. Literally. It's sad. I kind of like how his face turned out. It's kind of confusing what his arms and belly and leg. But it works. We have kind of a callback to the fruits of the plants from the first alien planet. And then there's a piece of cake for some reason in the background. I don't know what he ate. I had a lot of issues with this one of like ink spilling, so I wound up doing some like really intense black shadows. At the end, I definitely put some flies. I don't know how long he's been dead laying here. I don't know how long the guy slept for. So he could have been there for like a while before they found him. That's gross. Like, super gross. We move on to Dig, and our sweet, sweet gentlemen have laid the rodent to rest because they are good, gentle souls. And they're both just kind of sad. I kind of like how in the end the echidna looks more sad than the platypus. I think he's definitely humoring his gentle giant friend. He's just kind of like, yeah, I'm here, I have the shovel. Where the echidna properly looks like, we've gathered here today to say goodbye to a mysterious rodent who somehow got on our ship and we don't know how. A nice foreground, middle ground, background with this one. It's simple. The characters aren't entirely on model here, but again, they come off as, you know, sweet, sweet boys, and that's what I wanted in the end. So that's nice. Buddy. I wasn't quite sure exactly what to do this, but we have our platypus comforting our echidna. He's still not completely over being, you know, betrayed. But he's doing his best. Good old pat on the back. Probably be careful if you're patting your echidna friend on the back, because he's like spiky and stuff. But they're friends. Another one where they're not entirely on model, but the next one's a lot cooler. Next we have hide, and we did hide as in like fur. And I'm really proud of this one. I think it looks really epic and terrifying. So we have a tent made out of the hide and skull of a gigantic creature. Feline canine looking dude. And I love it. He's like intimidating and terrifying, and I'm pretty proud of the pole strapped to the teeth. I don't know why that amuses me so much, but it really does. And, you know, we've got our echidna and our platypus kind of like, what is this? You can assume they made it to another planet, and they're exploring, and then they find another character with music. And I will 100% admit that this guy is based off of a mashup of some of those super creepy extra long Furbies I've seen on the internet. It's got a big fluffy squirrel tail, and 3 mouths. Definitely Furby faces. I couldn't think of another animal I wanted to do, so I just went Furby because why not? And it's not exactly Furby. I don't think I could be, copyrighted. I mean, he's got 3 mouths and a squirrel tail and hooves. And just to make sure we brought together the fact that they're inside of the giant fur tent, he's sitting on a fur rug of this, tusked dog thing that's kind of adorable. It's weirdly adorable. I love the music notes in white on the black. Definitely brings a cool ethereal look to it. Definitely worth it. Then we have Float. And in the end, I really, really like the texture that I got with the white and the black scribbles. I was hating this one at first. I knew I'd been really off model with the characters and I really wasn't feeling it, but in the end I think that I was able to really get this cool, they're floating in space appearance down. And, it's nice. And it's charming. And it's definitely like these characters are astronauts. Shoes is another one that I really didn't like, but in the end, I like how graphic it turned out. It's another one of my favorite ones. It's one of the most simple ones in the entire story. But the idea is the magnetic shoe shorts out and kind of hits something inside the ship. And I think it's not precise, but I feel like if you had that as an idea, it'd be pretty clear. I really like the lightning bolts and the striking of the toe that go white to black, and putting some actual stars instead of just random polka dots. I feel like it gets a whole moment together. Ominous, we have an alarm going off. Something caused by the magnetic shoe shortage, probably. Magnets and electronics are probably not the best friends. But again, we've got some nice contrast with black and white, and I tried an intense perspective. It's not exactly right, but I feel like there's definitely this sense of foreboding uncomfortableness, and you know what? That's what you need to have with ominous. Ominous. So, that one I'm pretty proud of too. And the last one for Inktober, we have Crawl. We have been watching a lot of Star Trek, my husband and I, and his description literally was astronaut in Jeffrey's tube fixing something. So I drew that. Here's our platypus figuring out a problem, opening it up, fixing it in essentially a Jeffrey's tube. Kind of like Star Trek. Because nerds. Anyway. Oh, I forgot. I also have crammed in here my primal one. We had Hunter. So we have our lovely Dilophosaurus hunting a Parasaurolophus. And it's cute, and I definitely had to take an excuse to draw the Dilophosaurus under the most recent explanation, where the crest actually connected over the antorbital fenestra, and you had this chunky face. Now for the not dino nerds, when you look at a dinosaur skull and it's got that kind of caved in area between the nose and the eye, that is the antorbital fenestra, and it's kind of a space that helped make the skull a little bit lighter, and there's also sinuses and other things. And normally that kind of caves in a lot of renditions of dinosaurs' faces, and including Dilophosaurus, but people think that the crest that was over the Dilophosaurus's nose had this fleshy part that actually went over and covered the antorbital fenestra, as in this illustration here. And I'm a nerd. So, Inktober is over, guys. I managed to do it. I did them all before the end of the month, I definitely got behind and had to do like 2 or 3 a day the last couple days. But I finished. It's complete. I'm happy with it. I'm not as emotionally invested into this year's as I was previous years, but it's probably because my husband came up with the prompts. But it was a really nice challenge because I didn't have to think very much. I just looked at his and came up with a visual representation of what he was asking. And he still plans on going through and writing poems for all of these. So that'll be nice. Anyway, did you guys finish Inktober? Did you do Inktober? Did you do some other Tober? Did you finish your Tober? Let me know. What did you think of mine? Do you think it was a cute story? Did you like it? And thank you for hanging out for me today. And thank you especially to my patrons. Mom, Dad, Jamie, Hans, Cindy, and Kaze. And I'll see you guys sometime next week. Bye!